Ukrainian officials say a 10-year-old boy has been killed and more than 20 injured in a fresh Russian strike in the eastern region of Kharkiv. Meanwhile, EU leaders have condemned yesterday's missile attack on a village in the same region. That attack killed at least 51 people as they attended a wake. Ukrainian officials said the missile struck a shop and cafe in the village of Hroza.
For this small village, it's tragedy heaped on sorrow. Around 60 residents had gathered together after a soldier's funeral, only to be hit by a Russian strike. The village shop and cafe where they'd gone to mourn, reduced to rubble. Dozens were killed in one of the deadliest attacks in months.
The largest number of bodies was found in the area where there was a table where they wanted to commemorate the deceased.
With rescuers clearing the debris, locals came to look for loved ones.
My son was taken out without a head, without arms, without legs, without anything. But they recognized him from the documents, his driver's license. They recognized him. And my wife and son's fiancé, maybe they were torn apart too, I don't know. They are missing.
We were in the town centre and heard an explosion. We were then told that something happened in Hroza, and we know that my mother was here.
Ukrainian officials say initial information indicates the cafe was hit by an Iskander missile, one of the most accurate weapons in Russia's arsenal. President Zelensky condemned the strike on the village more than 30 kilometers from the front lines as a deliberate and brutal terrorist attack. For Ukrainians, it's another bloody reminder that nowhere on their own soil is truly safe.
Our correspondent Nick Connolly is in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, and joins us now from there. Nick, there's been another attack in that eastern region of Kharkiv, as you know, just a day after that deadly strike that killed dozens. What more do we know?
For now, the information is pretty sparse. We have reports of one casualty, a 10-year-old child. Beyond that, now more than 20 injured. Seems surprising and fairly miraculous if it stays at this tally, because this was downtown Kharkiv early in the morning. People were in bed for the most part, so there is an expectation here that those numbers could still change, although people are obviously hoping they won't. A city that in theory is better protected than the village that saw that attack yesterday, but a shocking reminder that if you're just 30 kilometers from the Russian border as Kharkiv is, this kind of thing can happen at any time.
Nick, an Iskander missile was reportedly used in yesterday's devastating strike. That is one of the most sophisticated missiles in Russia's arsenal. Is it a surprise, Nick, to see that missile deployed in an attack like this?
Well, there had been increasing expectation here in Ukraine that Russia would have to be a lot more selective when using these kinds of very expensive ballistic missiles. There'd been a hope that Western sanctions would see the import of complex electronics basically reduced to a trickle and would force Russia to use all this a lot more rarely. That doesn't seem now to be the case, and indeed, this was not something that anyone could have expected in places like Kherson that are still close to Russian-occupied territory. Artillery attacks of this kind are pretty much a daily occurrence. You have people being killed when they wait for a bus or when they queue up to get clean water or humanitarian supplies. But to have this kind of attack on a civilian target that is 40, 50 kilometers away from the nearest part of occupied Ukraine and about 60, 70 kilometers away from the Russian border, that really is unexpected. And I think it's a very unwelcome symptom now heading into winter, where everyone here expects fresh attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure, on Ukraine's power system. So seemingly Russia able to get past these sanctions and able to produce more of these weapons.
Does Ukraine have the ability to stop these kinds of missiles, Nick?
Well, the Patriot air defense system that Ukraine has received would work, but there just are very few of them for a huge country and a front line that is about 1,000 kilometers long. On average, it's expected that a Patriot system can protect about 100 square kilometers, slightly less. So that's basically a big city, not even if you've got a big kind of spread out city like Kiev. And they're obviously not focused on the capital and other main military targets. So, villages like Hroza, the place we saw that attack yesterday, and even Kharkiv are in a much more difficult situation. Now, Kharkiv also has that geographical closeness to the Russian border, which also means that these missiles that fly very, very fast reach their targets incredibly quickly, making it much more difficult to shoot them down.
Nick, thank you very much for now. That was our correspondent in Kyiv, Nick Conley.